I'm in Salad and I saw Star Trek The Animated Series Episode 2, Yesteryear. It is directed by Hal Sutherland, written by DC Fontana, and if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. This episode starts with following Kirk and Spock as they come back from the past. They beam aboard the ship, and suddenly, there's one change. The first officer is no longer Spock. It's instead this other guy. He's not as cool as Spock, so I don't want him there. First of all, what a weird change. Just one change? And Spock is gone? No other changes? Are you serious? Nothing that Spock has affected? Or maybe the guy that Kirk has done all the things that Spock has done in the proper timeline. Spock and Kirk are like, this is no good. First of all, I love how calm this timeline of the Enterprise are. They're so efficient. They're like, I understand. Even though we do not recall Spock being a first officer, I'm going to trust you, Captain Kirk, and we're going to help you out. I like that. That was cool. So, of course, they gotta go back. More specifically, Spock has to go back a couple of days before his birthday. There's this event that's happening on Vulcan of him being a wee little lad. I like seeing Spock's childhood. I like seeing him get picked on. He is half Vulcan, half human. All these dudes over here, they're Vulcan. Is this show telling me that bullying is logical? But also Spock's like, oh yeah, I remember. Around this time when I was younger, I had a distant relative come in to town, and he saved me from this dangerous beast. I like how because Spock was doing something else at the same time that he was supposed to be taking care of himself from dying from this monster or creature or whatever is on Vulcan. I like how because that didn't happen, Spock ends up dying and nothing else changes. Just that. I like seeing younger and older Spock interact. Younger Spock is like, man, I have these emotions and I'm trying to learn the Vulcan neck pinch, but I don't know how to do it, and I'm being bullied because I don't know how to do it, and everyone's saying that I should have learned by now. And Spock is like, it's okay, it just takes patience. And the younger Spock be like, man, I hate having human emotions. What's up with this? Why do I feel things? And the older Spock's like, well, you're always going to be feeling things. It's just the Vulcan way to choose logic over emotion. And this is the point in time in which younger Spock has to deal with either being human or Vulcan, and which philosophy to take. Well, he's both, but he's primarily focusing on which philosophy wrote to prioritize. Younger Spock's pet saves younger Spock. So younger Spock be like, this is sad. I really don't want him to die. Is there any way to save him? And, they're scrambling looking for an antidote, but the further and further that they look, the further and further that they cannot find a way to save his pets. And so Spock has to make the logical choice to end his suffering. And that really solidifies the way in which Spock views the world. He's very Vulcan-minded. He taps into his emotionality whenever he needs it, but it's very rare, and it's used in very controlled bursts. This episode serves as a great backstory episode on Spock and the struggles that he had to suffer through growing up. I even like how older Spock teaches younger Spock how to do the Vulcan neck pinch before they leave. And then they leave and the timeline is set to good. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. This is such a good episode. I felt a good amount of emotion just watching this. I was like, wow, I like Spock so much. I mean, I already liked Spock, but this episode made me be like, wow, I really like him. I also relate to him too. It's very relatable to show Spock, but as a child, because he's also going through the things that a child would go through, the trials and tribulations, but he's half human, half Vulcan, and he's living in a society where they value logic, and he has this emotional side, and he's very temperament compared to everyone else. He's a little hot-headed, he's causing fights, and he has to be sent home constantly because of how many fights he's causing. And he can't let this keep happening because it's detriment to his participation in society. And so he chooses the Vulcan path, which I think is ultimately the best for him and helps him survive. And it makes me like Spock because he has a lot of inner turmoil. And I'd love to see more inner turmoil episodes involving Spock. What do you think of this episode? This is actually a pretty good episode, and I enjoyed it a lot. I gotta give it's a solid 7.4 out of 10. If you like this review, watch another one. The platform really likes that $20 Dino is at patreon.com/ASEPresents. One movie review per 1 month. Go to this link to support the daily grindiness of all them daily movies, so go here. And until next time in Salad Saw, I'll see you later my sour croutons and bacon bits. Boop. Beam me up.